Hello, and welcome to our 2024 instructional video about applying for the Jersey City Arts and Culture Trust Fund grant applications. My name is Christine Goodman. I'm the Director of Cultural Affairs here at the City of Jersey City.
And my name is Migdalia Pagan Milano, and I'm the Assistant Director and Administrator of the grants.
So today we're going to walk you through 2 grant applications, which actually represent 3 grants. The first will be the program grant application, which includes program grants and arts education grants. And then we'll also walk through the general operating grant. If you're interested in information about the individual artist fellowship, that is administered by the Jersey City Arts Council. So you can find out more information at jerseycityartscouncil.org, as that nonprofit is the entity that administers the individual artist fellowship. So if you are here at this video, you've probably found your way to the Office of Cultural Affairs website and clicked on this video. Also on this page, there is a link to the applications themselves, and that will take you to the Neighborly website. And Neighborly is the grant application platform that we use for these grants. Once you get to that Neighborly page, there is a tutorial that will help you register, but in short, you will go to that link that you click on from the Jersey City Office of Cultural Affairs website and register yourself. It will ask you to do a 2-factor authentication. You may choose a different language if you so choose, and then it will prompt you to choose either the program grant application or the general operating support grant application. And then when you click on one of those buttons, it will take you to the application itself so you can begin the process. If you're interested in applying for either the program grant or the arts education grant, you would click that button for the program grant. And then the other grant, of course, is the general operating support grant. So now we are going to take you to that application within the Neighborly application software program, and Migdalia is going to walk you through the process.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Director, are you able to see my screen?
Yep, perfect.
Oh, great. Okay, wonderful. All right, so here we are. This is the Neighborly landing page for the program grant. What you're going to notice is that we have tabs here on the left side of the page. The application is broken up into 12 tabs, and they're all listed here. You are welcome to begin the application at any given moment. All of the work can be saved here, and you do not have to complete it all in one night. You're welcome to take the the weeks period to really piecemeal together which tab you'd like to tackle. Okay, so the overview page is the first tab. You're going to notice that on every tab and every page, we have a printer icon here to the right top corner, and that'll give you the ability to print each section, or you can also print the application entirely. It is strongly suggested and encouraged that you print out these application tabs and keep them as a reference. Director, did you want to talk more about the overview page?
Sure. So here you'll see the eligibility for arts education and program grants. The maximum request is $17,500. And it is the case for both of these grants, as well as that general operating support grant and the individual artist fellowship, that you may choose one to apply for this grant cycle. So just make sure when you're going into this program that you've thought ahead about which is the grant that you do want to apply for. For the arts education eligibility, the main point here that we want you to keep in mind is that your program must be open to the public. So if you are a school, your program may not be just for your student body. The arts education programming must be public programming where anybody can engage with the program. You can apply if you were a 501c3 nonprofit arts organization, arts and culture organization, or any arts organization or arts business that is presenting programming here in Jersey City, or if you're an individual artist who is a resident of Jersey City. If you are applying as a 501c3 nonprofit that is not an arts focused entity, your programming does need to be arts and culture focused for this grant, and it does need to be presented in Jersey City for the residents of Jersey City. The time cycle for all of these grants, your program must be held between July 1st, 2024 and June 30th, 2025. That is the fiscal year of this grant program. To be eligible for this grant, you need to have been in existence for 1 full year. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the fiscal eligibility here and what it means in terms of your ask in this grant program. So this applies to both the arts education and the program grant. So what I'm about to say applies to either one that you would be applying for right here through this page. You must match your grant 1-to-1. So what that means is if you ask, if your ask for this grant is $10,000, you will need to show in the budget section, which we'll get to, that you are raising $10,000 either through sponsorships or maybe ticket sales or other grant applications or in-kind revenue, which means things that are donated to you. That could be the services of a professional that would be donated to you, or a rental space that does have value, and you could show that that is part of your in-kind match. But whether that is cash or in-kind or any combination of the both, whatever you're of either one, your ask needs to equal what you are showing in your budget that you can raise to match that. For administrative salaries, your total ask can go to no more than 20% of administrative salaries. So that means that if you are asking for $10,000 through this grant proposal, only 20% of that $10,000 can go towards paying an administrator of this program. There are no caps for artistic fees if you're paying dancers or you're paying an artist to create a piece of work. I'm just using examples, but if you are paying an administrator, that is a 20% cap. We talked about you have to choose one category per cycle, and you may apply for up to 50% or half of the total cost of the program. What does that mean? That means that if it costs $30,000 in total expenses to put on your program, that's after you rent your facility and you pay for your advertising and you rent your lights and you hire your artists and you pay your staff, that comes to $30,000. That means the most you could request through this grant would be $15,000. So when we think about the spirit of why this is here, it's because the Arts and Culture Trust Fund should not be funding 100% of the cost to put on your program. So if your program costs $10,000 total, then the max you could ask for is $5,000. The program grant eligibility is pretty similar to the arts education. The program has to be held in Jersey City and serve the residents of Jersey City. Same time period, same entities are eligible to apply, the same match, and everything related to the restrictions of the money in terms of how much of the administrative fee can be taken from this grant. That this is all similar to the arts education. For the funding priorities, The fund supports organizations that expand the impact and inclusiveness of the arts in Jersey City. They can fund programs that revitalize shared spaces through the arts, build community connections through arts, and develop creative and economic opportunities for artists. So through your application, we are looking for you to demonstrate work of artistic value through this proposal, the ability to complete your project within the stated timeline with measurable goals, identify and implement a direct public benefit in this proposal that can be achieved within the grant timeline, and submit a final report on how you spent the money and what the outcomes were for your program. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the direct public benefit because it was stated there in part of what you're reporting on. And it is, there is a question here in your full proposal to talk about the direct public benefit. We'd like to take a little extra time to give information around this concept of a direct public benefit because it is something that is specific to this grant application. It's not something you see in every arts application here. So for some context, the Arts and Culture Trust Fund grant is funded through taxpayer dollars. And we want to make sure that these proposals and these grant funded programs are serving the residents of Jersey City. And we do that by thinking about how we can tell the story of this grant program through this concept of direct public benefits. How do our grantees engage with residents of Jersey City at no cost to them to build bridges in our community through the arts? So the spirit of the direct public benefit is to take this program that you're proposing through this grant proposal and consider ways that you can build connections within the Jersey City community around the program you're presenting. So for example, if you are applying for a grant to present a play, maybe there is a special engagement opportunity for residents to have a pre-show tour of the set or a post-show discussion for Jersey City residents, with the creatives involved with the production. So the direct public benefit is not intended to communicate that the expectation is for you to not charge for your presentation or to not earn money through this process or to be paid as an artist. Your program that you're presenting, whatever that looks like, should fairly compensate artists, and that is something you'll outline in your budget. The direct public benefit itself is a wonderful opportunity to think about how you can deepen the engagement. So we understand that there is an inherent public benefit in the trust fund funding your project and giving you and giving the community the opportunity to see your art presented or performed or to attend a program. There is a benefit there that is already happening. The direct public benefit is an additional engagement, and that is very unique to each project because every project is completely different. And so through this direct public benefit, we want you to consider an additional special engagement that does not cost you money in addition to the budget to put on your program, but helps us really connect with our community through the art. So that could be, maybe there is a special Zoom session where you will show a work in progress for Jersey City residents, and you'll promote that through a specific neighborhood group or something of the sort. We're happy to talk to you about what your ideas might be around the direct public benefit, but this shouldn't be well, my benefit is that I'm presenting my proposed program to the community. I'm going to be creating this program, and in addition to this proposal, the direct public benefit will be this specific engagement piece that goes alongside in parallel with your program. Again, any questions, we're happy to answer and talk through.
Director, that's a good point. And I just to also include, like, things like giving a tour of your studio, or teaching the youth how to use your printing machine, or bringing them in and showing them how to operate a camera. All of those kinds of things are really sort of neat direct public benefits that make a big impact on the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Take some time as you're going through the overview page 2 to review ineligible expenses. Food and hospitality, though they are very important to programs, uh, maybe extremely important to certain programs, that is not something that is covered with the grant. So please keep that in mind. Travel expenses that are not directly related to your program and go beyond 50 miles outside of Jersey City. Loan collateral, parades, legal services, political action committees, school activities considered curricular, part of the curriculum, extracurricular activities that are not open to the general public, we touched on that earlier, programming held outside of Jersey City, religious organizations, unless they're supporting non-sectarian broad-based arts programming, fundraising events and costs associated with fundraising, sponsorships, sponsoring other organizations' activities and fundraisers. So if I'm buying a ticket to another organization's fundraiser, that can't be covered by this grant. Prizes, if you're giving away prizes at your program, those cannot be covered by this grant. Scholarships and tuition and personal gain. So scholarships and tuition, just a few words about that, because sometimes this grant is used to, make the whole spirit of the Arts and Culture Trust Fund is making the arts more accessible within our communities. And sometimes we think about, well, this grant will help offset the cost of tuition for students. So think about your budget holistically. We don't want this grant to go towards paying and covering the scholarship for an individual student or participant to participate in the program. But there are other expenses associated with presenting this program. So think about those expenses and the way this grant could be used towards those expenses, which may in turn make your program more affordable or accessible or allow for more participation. But really, when you're talking through the budget, those grant dollars should go through the planning and marketing and production and facilitation of your program itself, and not towards scholarships. Your proposal will be evaluated on the following criteria: artistic value throughout the organization and the individual programs, that direct public benefit, which we just talked about, delivered within that timeline of July 1st to June 30th, 2025, goals that provide significant public benefit and value within Jersey City, an appropriate organizational or program budget that includes sufficient resources and appropriate compensation to artists. Again, we want to make sure that the intention is not for the Arts Trust to fund 100% of your expenses, and that you are making sure that artists are being paid for the work that they're doing. That is a value that that we hold here, and that the fund really does want to emphasize. A plan for evaluating the outcomes of your program, a diversity, equity, access, and inclusion plan, and an outlined ADA plan that has a timeline and descriptions for how you plan to engage with audiences and artists and participants with disabilities. The ADA plan is 20% of your total score. So we do have additional videos here that talk more about the ADA plan and how you can best shape that in your proposal. We're also always here to talk through and support you in that process. The final report is to be submitted within 6 months of completing your project, where you state your outcomes from those goals that you outline in your application. You submit a final budget and let us know how those funds were used and what other resources you raised for your match, and also the total expenses, so we can understand the scope of your program. the audience you served and the number of people served, information on what that direct public benefit was and how you delivered that to the residents of Jersey City. And supporting materials, we love to see photos, programs, scripts. Maybe you had coverage in press, videos. All of that is just so wonderful to see. And again, it helps tell that story of where the funding is going. And as creatives, your work is really the most vibrant story we can tell. And however we can understand that and help amplify that, the the more the merrier with those supporting materials are always great to see.
Director, I'll go into the payments. So the payments are going to be 75% as the initial, and then you will receive the 25% after the final report has been submitted and approved. Now, in order to be paid, you do need to become a vendor through the city, and you do need to submit a voucher in order to process the payment. I urge anyone who is going to be awarded a grant to please make sure that they do this as quickly as they can so that we can move the process along and get them paid. And then you're going to see here that you can only proceed if you click on, these two boxes, that you understand the program must be held in Jersey City and that you understand the terms and conditions in this overview page. You can click here on save rather than complete and continue. So the difference here is that when you save the work, you're able to go back into each tab and edit your work. However, if you click on the complete and continue, then it locks that tab. You won't be able to access it again, and you would have to contact myself in order to reopen it for you if you'd like to make any additional edits. So just make sure you save, so that you can go back and reevaluate. Moving on to the next tab, it's the contact information. Pretty basic information here. Make sure that we have, two addresses if you have the business, or if you have a personal address, maybe just specify those things and make sure that the email address is correct, so that way we're able to contact you. Hit save, and then move on to the next tab. Here's where we go into the organization information. If you have a website, social media accounts, all of that information is really important because it gives the reviewers a chance to really look at your entire proposal and what you've done in the past. Your EIN number if you are a nonprofit, the years that you've been incorporated. Director, the EIN number, is that also for LLCs, or did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yes, if you're an LLC, you would put in your business number there as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and the category that your programming is going to fall into, you can only choose one. So if it's multiple categories here, then click on other and enter it into the description.
I will just say here that it's in the telling of the story of who's applying for the grants and the different disciplines engaging with this, please give some thought to what your primary focus is, and that would be the one to check here. I'd really encourage you to only check other if you truly do work fully across all disciplines, but if you can get more specific with your primary focus, that would be great.
And then here we have the primary focused ward that your programming is going to take place in. That's really important to us for our final reporting so that we can continue to tell that story. You would click save so that you might go back to this if you need to, and then move on to the next tab. For the proposal, you have 2,000 characters, so there, should be brief in description. And you will have a chance to elaborate on this on the next tab, which is the proposal narrative. Director?
Here in the proposal narrative, you can use this opportunity to talk in greater detail about your program. We'd like to know everything possible here. Don't assume that anybody who is reviewing this knows your organization or the program you present, because after this application is submitted, your application is reviewed for completeness, but then it moves on to an independent grant review panel. So they make recommendations and they score applications, but may not necessarily know you or your program. So take the opportunity to shine and to really paint a picture of the work that you do.
Okay, so then we have the key personnel and any partner organizations. You can list them here. Make sure to save your work again, and then move on to the next tab. Director, would you like to take it away with the budget?
Sure. In E1, you're going to note the amount of your request, and then in E2, you'll let us know how you intend for the grant funds to be used. And then in this third section, this is where you'll talk about that match. So that match should also be reflected in your budget below, but this is where you will let the review panel know, okay, I'm asking for $10,000, and in E3, I'm going to talk about how I intend to raise $5,000 in ticket sales, $2,000 in a grant application, and I am having the materials to build props and set construction, which I value to be $3,000 to complete my match of 10,000. So get as specific as you possibly can in there to let us know more about that match. So in earned income, if you have completed this application in the past, you'll see it looks a little different. It goes into more detail to help you tell the story of where your earned income's coming from. So you'll see here, maybe there's workshop fees, art sales, box office, space rental, corporate contributions and sponsorships, individual donors, grants, various government sources, fundraising events. So maybe you have a gala, or maybe you're going to have a special fundraising night where you're going to sell tickets. And then here, and this is different from previous versions of this grant, so here you will include that request that you outlined above in the first part of this page. So if you're asking for $10,000, you put the $10,000 there. And if there's any other type of income that hasn't been mentioned in the above, you could put that in that final cell and then include a description with it. It will automatically tally. And then in E5, this is where you will give details on those donated services. You're going to click Add Row. And you'll put, what it is, maybe rent, what you estimate that donated rent to be. And then you can add another row. Perhaps this is administrative salary because you're donating a portion of your time. Now, we do get questions a lot. How do I estimate my time? I'm donating a lot of my administrative skill set to this program. And, if I was to charge that in the private field, it would be, I don't know, $50,000. Well, your total project is way less than that. And putting an amount like that would really just throw this whole budget. What would you charge if you were approached by a fellow arts programmer to put on this program? You wouldn't charge them your private market price. You would charge them probably a nonprofit fee. And that's what you would put there. You would use that sort of gauge to come to a figure that is in line with your project. Again, it might not be what you would charge out in the fair market, but in the world of arts programming, this will help you get a little bit closer to an estimate. Volunteer hours, absolutely. So here's one part I want to make sure to mention. Now that you have your earned income and your in kind, we're going to move to the expenses field. But those in kind items, that rent of $1,000, as Migdalia put in the chart, that is an expense. You're meeting that expense because it's being donated to you, but it's still an expense. So everything you list in the in kind should also be reflected in your expense category. That's going to help you keep this budget balanced. So your administrative salaries, what had you put above there, Migdalia? Admin, $5,000. You would also want to make sure that where it says administrative staffing, $5,000. Now, maybe it's more than that, and you can add that there, but it should be at least $5,000 because you're reflecting it in your in kind. Similarly, that rent, which says $1,000, should be down. If you scroll down a little bit, facilities, no, that's accessibility, rent and utilities. There you go, rent and utilities.
Yes.
At least $1,000 should go there. And you're showing it's balanced because it's also listed in your in kind. So as you go through this expense column, you'll see we ask for how much people who are administrative are getting paid, the artistic payments, and it is important that you're paying artists, technical personnel, other staffing, and then your supplies, your office and administrative supplies, your production expenses that go into actually presenting the artistic pieces of your program, any rentals that are associated with that programming, travel and transportation, rent and utilities, maintenance for your facilities, insurance, advertising and publicity, and any accessibility expenses around both your programming and your operations. If there's anything else that was not left there, you would put that in the other category. One other thing to keep in mind is that this should cover July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025.
Yes, that's noted here at the very beginning of the budget. The other thing I'd like to point out is that you have the ability now to enter some notes. So if you wanted to just elaborate on any one of these items, feel free to do that in the notes section.
I just noticed because, this chart may look a little different to some folks. If you go up to earned income, there is a line item that says space rental. Just keep in mind, that's not what you pay. That would be if you had a space and you rented it out, that is a form of earned income.
That's a good point.
All right, so is there anything else down here? Scroll down to the bottom of the expenses.
And then it tallies it.
Okay.
And you would save your work and then move on to the next tab. Or you can jump around, however you choose.
So in the ideal world here, your goal is for your earned income plus your in kind to be the same amount as your expenses, because that is a balanced budget. So where you've earned your income and where that has been donated to offset your expenses, those two categories should equal your expenses.
Yeah, and if folks have any questions about, the budget, they're welcome to come to any one of our open office hours. You can Zoom in or you can come in person. Just look for those dates on our website.
Great point. We're always here to help. So we've talked a lot about the direct public benefit. So I will just say that this is where you describe what that benefit is and how it will be completed within the grant timeline. And what you see as your goals and your expectations, your expected outcomes for the program overall. And how will you know that it's a successful program?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm just putting it out there. Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, a successful program is one that makes an impact to the community.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we have our diversity, equity, access, and inclusion section, where we've actually taken some of the questions from previous years and tried to condense them to really get to understanding how your staff, your leadership reflect the communities that you serve, how you work to address diversity and cultural equity within your organization and your programming, and what efforts you've undertaken to eliminate any barriers to participation and increase access for underserved communities. If you have a DEAI policy, you can attach it below.
Just click on the upload file.
And then we ask some demographics information to understand who you serve, how many people you intend to serve through the program, and how you intend to market and communicate your program out into the community and the surrounding region.
Okay, then you would save your work. We'll move on to the next tab.
So here is the ADA plan section of the application. And as I said previously, there is another video that helps you to prepare for this portion of the application. We understand that not everybody has all the answers or has implemented every tool to be able to make all aspects of your organization and programming accessible to persons with disabilities. What this is intended for is to give you a roadmap to making your programs as accessible as possible to everyone. And we intend this to be a tool to help you move through a timeline to achieve measurable goals around accessibility. So if you have an ADA plan that already exists for your organization, you can upload it. If you have a grievance procedure, that is the procedure that audiences and attendees can use if they arrive or try to participate in a program and are not able to, for whatever reason, how your organization handles that grievance. Please upload that.
And Director, that can be something like having a contact if you need assistance with something, having a contact on your website or on your marketing materials, right?
Yep, absolutely. So for programming, this is a section where you talk about how you market your programming and what's available for persons with disabilities who would like to engage with your programming. This is information on Braille, large print, assistive listening devices, art exhibit labels, tactile exhibition, closed captioning, sign language interpretation. So you want to let us know here what is available and when, if it's not available now, what your goal is for making these different accessibility options available for your audiences. And that is really specifically focused on how you market your program. On H4, you're talking about how the program itself is accessible, but specifically for artists. So we think about accessibility not only in terms of somebody arriving in a wheelchair to see your production, but also how do we engage on the creative end to make sure artists can participate in these programs that are being created. And then in the facilities, How will your program facility be accessible to artists and audiences with disabilities? So that has to do with signage, exits, restrooms, door weights, closed fist hardware, grip bars, elevators,
Or even the color of your website.
even the color of your website. Exactly. And again, you'll let us know where you are in this process, what is available through your organization, and what your timeline is for implementing. For those who have applied for this grant in the past, please do consider your previous applications and items that might have been listed here that were going to be achieved within a specific timeline. This is the time to really think about what those pieces of your application were. Have they been implemented? If they haven't, talk about why they haven't, and if they have, celebrate that in this section too.
And you would click save and move on to the next, which would be the program question.
These are a couple of quick questions to let us know if you are going to continue on to the arts education portion of this application. If you're applying for the program grant, you click program grant and you're done. If you click arts education, it will take you to a few more questions specifically related to your arts education proposal. Here you upload your required support materials for your proposal, bios of any key persons involved. And then it doesn't say required here, but it is required for you to submit one of the following. And you have to pick one, which is why they're not all required. So if you're a nonprofit 501c3, this is where you upload your 501c3 IRS paperwork. And then below the letter of confirmation of collaborator, which is self-explanatory, if you have a collaborator, you would upload the letter there. If you're an LLC, this is where you upload that paperwork. Or if you're applying as an individual, this is where you submit your proof of residency, like your license. So one of those three must be attached: your 501c3, your incorporation as an arts business, or your proof of residency as a Jersey City resident. You must attach one of those three, or the cultural affairs team will be circling back to you to make sure those attachments are there. You will not be able to proceed to the evaluation phase of this application if you do not have one of the three of those attached.
And Director, I'd just like to point out that there is a 5 attachment maximum for supporting materials. You know, a suggestion would be to open a Word document and, you know, all of the links that you'd like the reviewers to, you know, to access. You're welcome to list them all on one page and then download that one page.
And just remember,
And
you know,
here's
there's no guarantee that folks who are reviewing the application know your organization. So these supporting materials are very important so that they can learn more about you and see your previous work, your resumes, and you can really show a full picture of who you are as a presenter.
And one of the things I'd like to point out on this page is that you don't have to save it necessarily. Whatever you upload into the software program will stay there. So if you maybe don't have, you know, something on hand and you'd like to go back, you know, simply, you know, X out of the page. You don't have to save it. You can just go back to the required and then upload whatever file that might be. So you don't have to complete and continue. Otherwise, it will lock you out of that screen. Okay, here we are. Once you're feeling comfortable and confident with your application and you're ready to submit, all you have to do is click the certify checked box and sign electronically. I do urge you once again to utilize that printer icon and print out your full application and then you would submit, complete and submit here, and you should be receiving an email indication that that has been submitted. I would like to point out that every applicant does receive an ID number, which is right here at the top. Whenever you do correspond with myself or our office, please make sure to utilize that ID number in the subject line so that we can search you easily and keep track of our correspondence.
So this is the program in arts education application. And I know we've been doing a lot of information sharing here, but we do want to switch gears very quickly and go over to the general operating grant. It is a little different, in some ways very similar, but because it is a general operating grant, it asks for a few more supporting materials and questions around the operations of your overall organization. So for the general operating grant, your maximum request is $25,000. This is open to organizations that are based in Jersey City. You must be based in Jersey City and serve the residents of Jersey City with a proven track record of presenting public programs here. It's open to 501c3 arts and culture focused nonprofits. And there are also cases where LLCs with an arts and culture focus are eligible for the operating grant. So if you are an arts and culture focused LLC and you have a question about your eligibility, please reach out to Migdalia at mmilano@jcnj.org to talk through the eligibility for that. You'll need to be in operation for at least one full fiscal year, and your programs need to cover programming between July 1st, 2024 and June 30th, 2025. This grant is open to organizations that have a mission focused on arts and or culture. You must have at least one part-time paid staff member year-round. Again, you can only apply for one of the grant categories. This grant could be used for your operating costs or your programmatic costs. And if you are considering applying for the operating grant for the first time, you should also contact Migdalia to review eligibility. If you're incorporated, you must be in compliance with all the pertinent state and federal regulations as an incorporated entity. Guidelines for the operating budget. In this case, organizations must match 1-to-1, and 25% of that ask must be in cash. Whereas with the program grant, it could be a mix of in-kind and earned income. Here, it must be at least 25% of that ask in cash. So if you're asking for $10,000, when you're showing your budget, at least $2,500 must be in sponsorships or individual donations or ticket sales, tangible income that's not in kind.
Would other grants count in that number?
Other grants do count, yes. Administrative salaries for operating grants are limited to 50% of the maximum total grant request. And grants can cover no more than half of your total operating budget. So that means when you are doing your budget, if your total budget for the entire year is $30,000, the maximum amount of your request is $15,000. 25% of which you must match in cash, and then the rest can be a combination of whatever in-kind and earned income is relevant to your organization. The funding priorities are still the same, and the applicants demonstrating the work of artistic value and these other items are also the same as the programming grant. The direct public benefit is also an expectation of the general operating grant. And the ineligible expenses and programs are the same, as is the evaluation criteria. The award sizes will be determined based on available funds. The scores provided by the independent grant review panel based on the criteria outlined above. The size of an organization's operating budget and the amount of funds requested. There will also be a final report expectation, just as with the other grants. And once your grant is awarded, you do receive your first 75% and you receive the last 25% of the grant award after submitting your final report. Here
And
you
just to
will.
Sorry, just to reiterate here, you would check off the boxes, understanding that your organization must be based in Jersey City with an arts and culture focus, and that you understand and have read the terms and conditions of this overview page. Again, make sure to save your work. I would not suggest that you complete and continue until you're completed with the entire application and you're ready to submit. So save, save, save. Here we have the contact information. Again, pretty self-explanatory. Make sure to include multiple addresses if you have them, and specify if it's business or personal. That way, we can have all of that information in our records. Save, save, save. Move on to your organization or whatever tab you'd like to tackle next. The organization should have your name, the website, any social media accounts that our reviewers can go to give them a better picture, overall picture of your organization, and the EIN number, or if you are an LLC, that would be the business number.
Yes.
And again, here for your category, your discipline, you can only select one. As the director had mentioned before, really hone in on, the focus of your organization. But if it is multidisciplinary, then you are free to check off the last box. We'd like to know what ward your organization is headquartered, and then just save that and proceed. For your proposal, we do have a 2,000 character limit here, so please just be brief. Give us a quick synopsis of your proposal, and then add the ward that your programming is going to take place in, or that you do provide programming. For instance, you might be headquartered in Ward A, but your programming could be in Ward B, Ward C, Ward F. So we'd like to know this. It helps us with our reporting to tell that story. Click Save and move on to the proposal narrative. And again, here you're going to describe your organization. You're really going to give a great understanding to the reviewers of what your organization does, how it serves the community, artistic quality. And I think you might want to make a comment about that artistic quality, Director.
Sure. This artistic quality is really related to your stated mission and your goals. And so we're not looking to address artistic quality through the lens of a narrow, historically exclusive measure of quality. This is how you define the artistic quality of your program and who you serve. This is also the section where you'll let us know about how your organization is structured, who the decision makers are in the organization, and your connection to the community that you serve through your artistic programming.
And notice that you do have 7,500 characters there, so you do have a good amount of space to really go into detail. Just hit save, and then we'll lead you to the budget.
The budget is laid out very similar to the program and arts education budget. Here you'll list your request amount, Remember, that cannot be more than half your organization's total expenses. You let us know how those funds will be used and how you intend to match the funds. Again, below, you'll see more detail around that earned income, so you can really let us know the various sources of your earned revenue, including your request. You see in bold for the Arts and Culture Trust Fund. If you received a grant last year, that would go into your grants, the regular grants category. This is for your 2024 fund request. Oh, apologies. This is actually projection. So you wouldn't last year's budget at all, last year's grant at all. That would be for everything July 1st, 2024 forward. We'll talk a little bit about
or other state or grants that you might be receiving.
Right. We'll talk a little more about previous budgets a little later in the required documents. So for here, you're just going to put your upcoming request and any other income that might not have been covered above. List your in-kind support. And the goal is that that earned income plus your in-kind support is going to equal your expenses.
Yes, for example, if you receive donated space that, you know, that was an in-kind support, include that in both the in-kind and the expenses line item. And you would put that in the expenses line item under rent and utilities. As with the program budget, you do have the ability to add as many roles as you need for the in-kind support. And you're free to make notes if you need to elaborate on any one of them. Again, the expenses are similar to the program. And it will tally it for you at the total. Director, was there anyone in particular here that you wanted to go over?
No, this is all the same as program.
Great.
Governance, however, yeah, this is the different section here that is not in program. So we definitely want to highlight that this is where you talk about your organization's leadership, your board, and your staff structure. And then you also outline the sources of income of your organization and your organization's approach to fundraising. Do you have a fundraising committee? Do you have specific events planned throughout the year? How do in-kind goods and services impact your organization?
Yeah, and you're free to really elaborate here. We don't have a character limit for either one of these. So, you know, as much detail as you can provide to give the panel reviewers the overall picture. You can save your work and then move on to the next portion of this application, which is the engagement. This is a little bit different, I think, from the program.
Yes, so the engagement section here asks you to talk about the target audience for your programming and how you intend to market the programming and communicate with potential participants. So how are you doing outreach? How are you marketing these programs? How do people know what you're presenting as an organization? And how many people do you anticipate serving for your entire fiscal year, July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025? Here, just as with program, we have the DEAI plan section.
And then you're welcome to upload that if you have it.
If you have it, yeah.
Next, we have the direct public benefit, which is also similar as the program. And remember to save all of your work. And then the ADA section.
Also similar to the program grant.
With the exception of the facilities. right? I think the facilities is different for the operating.
No, I believe that's in the program grant as well, but
Oh.
it's talking about how your facilities are accessible to both artists and audiences with disabilities. And that's considering the experience from the minute they arrive to when they actually get through the door, they engage with the programming, restroom use, um, entrances, exits, and things of that nature.
And save your work and move on to the required documents. You're almost there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, in the document, in the required document section, there are a couple of differences between this and program. For instance, we do require that you submit your organizational budget for the previous year or the 2023-2024 year. Financial statement or audit for most recent fiscal year. And it's
your
important to add any other business filings that you might have.
right, and your 5-year strategic plan as well.
Correct. Yes.
That is not required. So if you do have one, please attach it. If you have not created a 5-year strategic plan, it is something you should consider as an organization, thinking about your goals for the next 5 years and how you plan to get there and achieve those goals.
Great. And after you've printed all of it, all of your application is complete, and you feel confident, and you print it all out, and you have a copy for yourself, then you'll go to the submit section, click here that you certify these statements are all true, sign it electronically, and then complete and submit. Keep in mind you do have that identification number up here that is assigned specifically to you and your application. And you will receive an email notifying you that your submission has been received.
Great. Well, this takes us to the end of our application review. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Migdalia, for walking us through. And
you're welcome.
yeah, the deadline is Monday, March 4th at 5 p.m. We do have in-person sessions available, as Migdalia mentioned. There's also pre-recorded videos to please take advantage of, and we are available for any help or questions along the way.
Our contact information is right here on the screen. Feel free to call us, or you can send an email to culturalaffairs@jcnj.org, and we'll be happy to, answer any questions that you might have.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us. Best wishes.
Wishing you all the best of luck.